Ciao, amici. Ciao, everybody. Welcome to Calcio Culture. As always, my name is Logs, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Motts and Vos. Lads, what a few weeks we've had together. A little cross-country trip to the storied football grounds of Glendale, Arizona, for a bit of a battering of Panama by Colombia.
Colombia.
That was a
And then
flawless delivery of the story grounds of Glendale, Arizona. But actually, the pitch was actually pretty good.
well done by the people in Glendale. I can't agree more. And then a quick cross country trip back to MetLife, to a place where they don't let just anyone get into the stands, for a great game featuring the GOAT, Messi, Lionel, and a little 2-0 win against Canada.
Saw him score
Lads,
a
how we
goal.
doing?
That's 3 for 3. Me and Lokes have been to 3 Messi games, and we've seen 3 goals. We saw actually the best Messi game maybe ever. Inter Miami
Maybe
first game
ever.
walk off. This is Messi too. That's my best game ever.
Mats, can you bring up that video for us when we figure out how to do that?
Yeah. As I said to you guys before, that will probably be forever like the top 5 greatest moment of your life. Like not
That
much can
was
beat that.
immaculate. It was
Yeah.
immaculate.
I'm 1 for 1 though. I'm one Messi game, 1 goal, 1 win.
That's
Wasn't a
true.
great goal,
The
but
Coucho boys are 100% for seeing Messi goals, and you love to see it. You love to see it. But in any case, a couple quick hits coming your way. Vos, what do you got?
First thing, it's got to be the Euros. We just saw it. Spain pulled it off, 2-1 victory. Probably for the first time in a while that it's the team that deserved to win had won it. They were just way better than everybody. First team ever to win every game they played in the Euros. I think they ended up only conceding like 4 goals or something like that. It was something ridiculous. And we're just battering teams. You guys said it from the beginning, from game one. Spain was the team to beat, and they just brought that through the entire tournament. A ton of great things we saw out of Lamine Yamal, Motz's boy there, and
Lamine Yamal,
Nico
Lisan Al
Williams.
Gaib.
Yeah,
Lisa
literally Lisa
Nagai.
and Nico Williams. It was great to see them kind of power through and really burst onto the scene. I think everybody knew who they were, and now they've hit that next level. A
Yeah,
couple
I
of
mean
the
they
other guys,
dominated the entire tournament. The entire tournament they were I don't know if I think they trailed once and it was to Georgia for like 7 minutes. Other than that, they were just dominating. Their midfield was playing tremendously, and then Pedri got injured, and then they just subbed in Danny Elmo, and he probably did better than Pedri. Cucurella, another standout player for them that kind of shocked a lot of people this tournament.
Shout out
So
Gary
they,
Neville. Totally thought he was going to be the downfall of Spain, and he just showed him up. I mean,
I did too.
I
To
think
be
I
fair,
think he showed us up too. To be fair.
yeah, 100%. And I
have
like
to
the Danny
mention,
Olmo shout. I've been on the Danny Olmo train maybe since he came out of the womb. People didn't want to listen to me. Hopefully, they'll listen to me now. Now he's got a price tag of like 65 mil. Like this guy's going places.
yeah, he's got a
Those,
release clause going, and I think City want him, but I don't know. His release clause doesn't last for much longer. But we have to mention my boy Rodri. Let's go. Vos owes me a jersey, player of the
Post
tournament,
does owe you a
obviously.
jersey.
Yeah, I'll swallow that one. I said it was going to be Fabian Rui if Spain won it. Was wrong, and now I owe you a jersey. I don't even know what it's going to be. You should get a Calafiori Italy jersey, and you're not. You're going to get a Juve jersey.
Might get a Juve, might get Calafiori. We'll see. But it was always Rodri. He's inevitable. I mean, I feel like he's got to be in conversation now for the Ballon d'Or. He's like, what? What does he have to? Else does he have to win to be in that conversation?
Yeah, for sure. But speaking of Euro winners, my highlight of Sunday was Giorgio Chiellini walking out the trophy before the game and after the game with that little fucking smirk on his face. That was the best part of the tournament for me. I loved it.
That was a
That
good
was
moment.
awesome. That was awesome. Shout out Paisans.
Yeah, and it
Logs
was
and
great.
I Logs and I were at a bar watching this game, Smithfield Hall in NYC. If any of the Paisan Army is in New York and want to watch it with us, let us know. But when JoJo came out with the trophy, I held up him yanking Saka down at the last Euros finals and was just showing it to all the England fans. It was a good moment.
Good chirp. Good chirp.
The other good thing that I loved about it is because he had been on the broadcast the whole month, and then they like were really giving him his moment, and we're like talking about it. It was like perfect. It was Italy was terrible, but still we gotta throw him out there, get Chiellini some burn still.
Yeah, the defending champ. So that was
Yeah,
that was right. That was good by them.
and on the flip side, we got to talk about the Copa America compared to the Euros. It's the quality is very bad. The final was a pretty good 0-0 game. I think it's like high energy. It's good to see Messi get another title. He's our GOAT. This is a Messi GOAT podcast. Logan sometimes has these relapses where he talks about Cristiano Ronaldo as the GOAT. I don't know why he does it. He'll learn.
Ronnie the boy.
But in all seriousness, Messi gets another one for Argentina. They were comparing this to the only like comparable team was when Spain went Euro, World Cup, Euro. I don't think this team touches that Spain team personally. Winning the Copa America is very different from winning the Euros.
Surely. But it's still incredibly hard to have such continued success over any international tournament. I mean, winning a World Cup period is a feat matched by very few, and so to go 6 years in a row at international tournaments and winning the whole thing 3 times in a row, I mean, definitely shouts out to Argentina. But again, the product at Copa, both on and off the pitch. No shouts for the security at Hard Rock Stadium was just horrendous.
But
Simply
Yeah,
then,
horrendous.
that is the
but it
other
was
thing that I wanted to pull out from this game. They literally destroyed the stadium. I don't know why you would do that.
yeah, it
They
was crazy. There
wreaked
were
havoc
fans. There were fans sneaking into the AC unit to get into the game. I saw.
like rats.
But even before the final, the game against Uruguay, Colombia, the Uruguay players were in the stands fighting other fans, like protecting their family. It was like just terribly managed over there over here in the
Yeah,
U.S.
this is a bad sign of what's to come for the World Cup. I have to say, like Copa America is not even close to like the scale of the World Cup, and we could barely handle this.
I think they're the one silver lining in this though is that it did happen for Copa and it wasn't on a grander scale and it wasn't on a grander stage, so that hopefully the the dudes running the U.S. Federation here and setting up for the World Cup in 26 learn from it and are certainly much better prepared for games that are coming up that are going to be much higher stakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The other
agree.
good thing I will say is that we got to see firsthand MetLife, which is going to be the site of the World Cup final in 2026. We're at that game. Well, we should post those pictures actually on the Twitter so you guys can see them. That's going to be a really good venue, and it's a good like camera angle and all that. I would say the same thing about Hard Rock. I thought it looked really good on TV. Like it looked like a good environment, good pitch. So that's the one. That's my other positive, I guess, for the Copa America. And they injured Messi. Like it's just like I fuck the Copa.
New York, New Jersey Stadium will be a great venue for the World Cup. That's all
Yeah,
I can say
very
about
much
that.
New Jersey though, not New York. Don't get it twisted. But they're gonna promote it like it's New York.
Yeah,
But
it
before we
took us
move
like 2
on,
hours to get back.
want to give a quick shout out to Lautaro Martinez, player of the tournament, Golden Boot. He's had a fantastic year. He's really taken the next step in his career, winning Serie A MVP. Like I just mentioned, player of the tournament for the Copa, Golden Boot for the Copa. So he's won a lot of trophies this year.
Golden Boot for Serie A as well.
Did he?
Hmm.
Very nice.
He might be
Score.
on the short list. He's not going to win it, but he'll probably be like one of the higher up ranked guys for Ballon d'Or.
The problem is that he sits in such a large shadow, and not
Messi,
only
yeah.
does he sit in Messi's shadow, but I think it was very apparent from this tournament that at least on an Argentinian scale, Julian Alvarez has hopped him to a certain
But
extent, especially with
he
the
he
features that
definitely
Julian
has.
had.
But it kind of makes no sense because
I
Lautaro
agree.
scores every time he plays.
I
Yeah,
agree.
but this goes back to my whole Lataro thing, and we're going to go on a tangent here because this was a perfect Serie A segue. Lataro is really good at scoring goals, but he doesn't do a lot of other stuff. And that's why he's not in the Argentina team consistently because they don't really need that. They need a guy that's going to do some other stuff.
I agree, but like it's pretty important to score goals, and
Yeah, but
he
they have
scores goals.
Messi, Di Maria, Julian Alvarez.
I mean, my one counterpoint to that point, Vos, is look at Olivier Giroud for AC for all these years. What was he good at besides scoring goals? That's
Yeah,
all he did.
yeah, but my point being that Olivier Giroud was the only guy that scored goals. And in Argentina, you don't have that issue. Like you have other guys that can go and get one.
I guess we'll. I think this is a big Serie A season for Lautaro to see if he keeps up the momentum and the form that he had from this past season. Because obviously, I think this was really the first. This past season was the first one where he was the top option, the one pure goal scorer that they had. Obviously, Marcus Thuram played off of him a little bit, but Lautaro was the one banging him in. We'll see if they continue to do that next year, and then I think that's a really good segue into what the rest of Serie A is bringing in, especially Inter and Vos. What are we talking about on this pod today?
Yeah, so this is the main bulk here. This isn't going to be our normal episode flow here. We got no Serie A games to talk about. Copa just ended. Euro just ended. But we wanted to kick it
No
off with
Copa.
with the Mercato check-in, aka transfer market news, transfer market updates. We're going to be taking you through the major clubs, the official signings that have happened, the rumors that are going on, all the big stuff that you guys need to know about. And we'll give you kind of a preview of some players you may have not seen because they've been in some other leagues or they're just breaking through right now, coming from some of the lower teams in Serie A last year. And since we're talking about Inter here, I guess we'll just kick it off with that. They are a club that tend to get their business done right at the beginning of the window. They had a couple loans that were loans to buy that came to an end this year, which was Carlos Augusto and Marco Arnautovic. If you watched Inter at all, I'm sure you've seen both of them, so we're not going to spend a ton of time there. The other two official ones that we really like on this pod, Mehdi Taremi, who's a striker from Porto. He's been there for a number of years. He was linked to Manchester United as kind of that temporary solution guy. They ended up going different routes, but he's a guy that we talk about Koulibaly conundrum a little bit, and we're going to refer to this a lot on this podcast because it's a term that we've coined where it's Koulibaly was on Napoli for so long because it cost so much money to get him out of there, but everybody knew how good he was, but nobody wanted to bite the bullet and spend the money to get him. Like he was supposed to go to City for years and years and years. Taremi, same thing on a smaller scale, really good striker, just classic number 9, but nobody just wanted to spend the money. Now he's a little bit older. They got him on a discount. The other guy they got was Josep Martinez. Um, on these guys, what do you guys think about these two signings? Good signings, bad signings. How do you feel about these players?
I mean, personally, the Taremi signing I think is perfect for them. They've always needed that kind of target man, big guy up top, whether he was a pure starter or just coming off the bench. They had Arnautovic last year. I think the best example of what they have really been looking for in that position was Dzeko, and he was disgusting for that one season that he came back to the Serie A. I think that this is going to be a perfect you know, relapse of that position for Inter, and we'll see how well he works off of Taram and Lautaro up top. Again, they have Arnautovic. I think they're very similar players, but for a free transfer with Taremi's experience, in playing 3 competitions, I think this is going to be a huge value add for Inter up top.
Yeah, and I think your
Yeah.
your like allusion to Dzeko there is a really, I forgot about that. He was so good on this team, and they don't have a player really that's in that build now. The other thing I would like to comment here that I was just realizing now is Inter are kind of at the point where they're building a squad to win more than one competition. Like their striker group now is Turam, Lautaro, Arnautovic. You add Taremi to that. You can put Mkhitaryan up there. There's a lot of guys that can fill in that space
Joaquin
well if
Correa coming
needed.
back too as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that it's kind of like the new like city mode, like right, like you get good, you win, then you build on that, add more players. They don't need
Mhm.
Taremi. They probably have more guys than they necessarily need to win the Scudetto, but it's about building on. And yeah, Mats, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is definitely good business because it's a free and he's a good player, but kind of added luxury because as you just ran through some of their strikers, they have a lot of good players up top, and especially the season that we just talked about, Lataro had, Taram had just as good of a season as well. Arnautovic is a great backup to have as well, but kind of you if it's good business, it's good business. So this is a good ad. And then in terms of Martinez for their goalie. I thought Jan Sommer had a pretty decent season, although I know he struggles with his feet a lot. So maybe they're bringing in Martinez to kind of add that competition. He's better with his feet, play out more from the back, and just kind of push Sommer to be better. But one thing that I will say that I was interested but not seeing really Inter do is go after like a center back because I know that they have a Cherby, but like he's getting older. you got to find a replacement for him. The Inter are so good everywhere else; they don't really need a whole lot besides that one spot. So I'm curious as why they're not really going after a center back.
Yeah, what
Yeah.
I think could be interesting here. That's a really good point. Do you think we could see Bastoni deployed there a little more? After
I was just
obviously, and to like just to allude to it, guys, if you didn't watch a ton of Italy in the Euros, Bastoni, Spalletti surprised us in a lot of ways in playing Bastoni as a center back and a back three for a lot of the tournament, and he was phenomenal back there. He looked like no, he's never going to make an error. His distribution was good. His decision making was good. He really dialed back his tendency to get forward, which is obviously an Inter thing. But I think Inzaghi may have seen this and say, let's just move him in there maybe, and then maybe look to replace a new left center back once the right guy comes through. Maybe we'll see more DeMarco at left center back like we did when he first broke through. Who knows?
I think that's exactly what they're thinking. There is that rumor that they're looking at the Verona center back, Cabal, left-footed. I don't know much more about him besides the fact that he favors his left. But again, they're targeting that left side simply because they watched the Euros. They saw that their traditional left center back can play that center back, and so I think that they're molding around what they've got because again, like Mott said, Cherby's getting old. Darmian's getting old. They really need to. De Vrij's getting old as well. Although I think he had a great tournament for the Netherlands. Obviously biased, but that back line is getting a little old. They're going to need to regroup there, refresh. They've already done it with the forwards. They've already done it with the midfield. Then you start doing it with the back line as well.
That's a good. It's hilarious that Logan says I'm biased there because he's not Dutch and he has no actual like faith or like tie to the Dutch national team. Just like, but De Vrij, he did surprise me. He had a great tournament. I thought he was maybe their best center back. He was phenomenal.
Oh, Virgil.
Vert for me wasn't great. Like,
He looks shaky. He looks
yeah,
shaky.
but like we're not gonna spend a
Yeah,
ton of
but
time.
A shaky Virgil
Yeah,
is still
true.
very good.
That's fair point. Fair point. The other thing that I forgot to mention here that Inter did signed a midfielder that we love, veteran of Serie A, had a great Euros again on a not arguably the worst team in the tournament. Um, Peter Zielinski, Polish national, made his move from Napoli to Inter this summer. Uh, kind of what that tells us is he thinks he's good enough to break into this midfield. This is arguably the hardest midfield to break into right now in Serie A. Motts, we're all a big fan of this guy. Do you want to just break down kind of what his game is, what his path into this team may be, what his role might be?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I mean they already have four fantastic midfield players that had a great season last year in Mkhitaryan, Hakan, Barella, and Fertezi. I think Zelensky is going to kind of fill in for that Mkhitaryan role next to Barella because Mkhitaryan is also getting up there in age. And this is just a great box to box player, super creative, going to be basically like a mini Barella on the other side. This was another great move. Their Inter's CEO Murata, little known fact, Juventus guy, he just does good business. Like he sees good business and he executes it. Zelensky on a free is a great move. They might now have one of, if not the strongest midfield in the Serie A with this move. Logs, you want to add a little bit more about Zelensky?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think he slots in exactly where they want Mkhitaryan to be replaced. Just reassuring the midfield again, kind of the same idea as what they're doing up top, preparing for three different competitions, really bolstering the midfield, especially on an Inter team where that three-man midfield is super high energy and is incredibly important to cover the majority of the pitch there for them. So that the days of Hank and the days of Hakan, obviously Barella has the juice to do it, but the days of those other two running a full 90 is going to slowly move away from them. So it's good that they have Fortezi in the ranks. They're going to bring in Peter Zielinski, and especially again going back to Inter just get their business done early. I think they had this agreement done a month before the season ended. Zielinski knew he was leaving, and Inter jumped on that, and I think that was a great grab by them, especially picking up one of the more experienced midfielders from the Serie A. That's a great pickup for the best team in Serie A.
Yeah, I love Zelensky too, and we're gonna do a deeper dive into each one of kind of like the top teams of the league, guys, and we'll kind of break down what we can expect from them this season. But just quickly on Zelensky and what this brings to Inter, for me, the addition of Taremi and Zelensky actually gives them the personnel to play a little bit different if they want to. Because Zielinski, we compare him to Barella, kind of similar box to box player, but he's a lot more creative, I would say, in terms of having like the final ball. Barella's more of
That's
like a
what I was gonna say.
runaround destroyer kind of guy. But when if you could play the three, if you play the three of them together, Zielinski can kind of drop in and be creative from deep more so than Barella can. Barella's really good at filling in that space and just making right decisions. But Zielinski is going to give you a little bit more creativity, bigger range of passing, not as much energy for sure. But if you use him in those games against teams where, okay, they might sit deep, maybe they use him in Europe more if they're playing a worse team and say, we need to barrel through these guys, but we also need two guys that can pick the pass because that was really on Hakan all year. Granted, but I mean, that was an unbelievable season from Hakan. Like, couldn't have been better. They relied on him a ton. I don't think he can even recreate that. So I think that this may also have a piece to do with that.
Surely. And that note, I think there's going to be a theme throughout this transfer coverage that a lot of Serie A teams are looking to revamp their midfield, and one of those teams that have already gotten that done for the most part is Juventus. Mats, tell us about Juventus'
They're still
business so
working.
far.
They're still working. Giuntoli's cooking, as they say. Giuntoli's got a list. He's executing it. But
Quick chef.
definitely he's chefing up. Giuntoli is chefing up. He is definitely targeting the midfield. I'd say that was probably our worst spot last season, although we had a lot of bad spots. But right away, already signed two very solid midfielders in Thuram and Douglas Luiz. Those were great signings. I mean, Douglas Luiz played, I think, 3,000 minutes last year for Austin Villa. So he's just a workhorse, plays every single game. And he's had, I believe, 10 goals, 10 assists around there, 10 and 10 guy. So he can create and score, which is what we need because we have no creativity or finishing in the midfield. So that's already a huge buy. And then Thuram also never gets injured. Workhorse guy is going to kind of possibly fill in that Rabiot spot because it looks like Rabiot is not going to re-sign with us, thankfully, because I've had enough of him. I'm ready for some fresh blood in there. So super pumped to see what Thuram can do. And then another big signing that people during training are raving about is the goalkeeper, Di Gregoria. Signed him on a loan this season for 4 mil and next season obligation to buy at 18. And we signed him because Thiago Mata loves to play out from the back and he is very, very good with his feet. People are saying at the training sessions that he's got better touches than some of the younger midfielders on Juventus. So really excited to see that.
Shout out Moretti, your boy.
Speaking of Moretti, there's also been talks that Thiago really likes Moretti and that he's going to be utilized a lot this season. We'll see. I think Moretti kind of, when he first burst on the scene, was really, really good, and then he kind of tailed off and never really got much better. But definitely, Giuntoli's cooking. Giuntoli's cooking. These are great moves right now. And I will say, people should do, or what's it called? Like the sporting directors of other teams should try to do swap deals more often. Like June, that was such a good deal. We basically spent 28 mil for Douglas Luiz and gave him Enzo Bonarechea and Ailing Jr. Now those are obviously good players that have potential in the future, but we need to win now, and Douglas Luiz can definitely do that.
I agree. I mean, I think that was a great bit of business. As a secondhand Aston Villa fan, I definitely would have loved to have just gotten 50 mil, but great by June to toss some young players in some potential and basically let Aston Villa take the call option and send out just 28 mil to conserve some cash there. But Juventus got an absolute dog in Douglas Luiz with that deal. I mean, this guy can play all three spots in the midfield, whether it be the 10/cam, box to box 8, deep line playmaker at the 6. He's got some bite to him. So he's a field general when he needs to be. He's creative in the attack. He takes free kicks. He really covers all three spots in what a traditional three-man midfield would be. And so that gives you a ton of flexibility when you want to move guys around, when you're playing in three competitions. If you want to play him with Beans slash Fagioli and you want to play him with Locatelli, you can do that. Obviously, his new running mate kept from Thuram. He's going to be the defensive six for you, so Douglas Luiz can step up and be creative. I think it was a really great buy for you guys. I think he fits in well, and not to mention, love the Juventus women bringing in one of the best and most beautiful soccer players in the world, along with Douglas Luiz in there. So shouts to them.
Yeah, and really quickly on Nicola Fajol, Loke said it there. He's Beans on this podcast. Sometimes we'll forget to actually say his name. Anytime you hear Beans, Juventinis, Nicola Fajol, he's our Beans. But on Douglas Luiz, I'm a huge fan of this guy. This is a phenomenal signing for Juve. Brings a bunch of elements that they don't have into the midfield. Like you said, Lugs, bite, energy, all that. People get injured, you can move him around. Extremely versatile. On the flip side of things, we talk about Kefron Taram, who literally his running mate looked like great word to use for him. This guy just covers ground. A lot of people that don't know who Kefron Taram is, never seen him before. 20 million for a French center mid playing for. Oh, where did he play? Rennes? No, he wasn't at Rennes.
Nice.
Nice, exactly. This guy a year ago was about to join Liverpool. That fell through for a number of reasons, and he was going to go for a much larger fee than this.
40, 50 mil.
Yeah, they just Nice didn't have a great season, but like this is one of those players where he just covers ground, makes good decisions on the ball. He's going to get up and down the field every single game. This is an absolute steal. And we might be talking about Kefron Taram at the end of the season as like a $70 million player. Like for the fees that we're seeing for guys for like 65 million now, Kefron Taram is absolutely could be worth that much. This is
He's definitely worth
this is an
more than what they
insane
paid
bit of
for.
business. They just completely overhauled their midfield with two guys, and it's going to elevate everybody else. It's going to force Locatelli to finally step up and be the player that he was at SAS. Granted, under Allegri, wasn't really able to do that. There was a lot of issues, but now it's okay, Locatelli. Like we just brought in two guys that are going to compete for the same spot as you. You need to step it up now and hit that next level.
And I think the same goes for Beans because I think after a suspension for such a long time and coming off and having just a subpar Euros, obviously he hasn't played in a long time, but I think that he's on the hot seat, especially with these two guys coming in who are much more acquainted with the big scene. I would like to see before we do get too hot on Taram. I want to see him on the big stage. This guy's played for a very
Fair.
average Ligue 1 team. I want to see him playing a much higher pace, much more physical Serie A these days, and especially in Champions League.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
they went deep. I think 2 years ago in the Conference League. I know it's a little different, but he did do it in a stage for Europe, and also I think it's going to be not that hard of a transition for him. We saw his brother have a pretty similar one last season. His brother filled in on that Inter team perfectly.
Marcus
His
Thuram.
dad was
Marcus Thuram.
Marcus
He's
Thuram.
actually
Yeah,
his brother. Yeah.
yeah. And
Confirmed,
then
brother.
their father, both of their fathers, or both of their dad was a
Two
Juventus
dads.
legend. Yeah, well, same thing. But anyways, Juventus legend. So they know this league. So I think he's gonna transition. I think he's gonna be good.
Yeah, I do too.
Agreed.
And on the flip side of things, a couple players going out. Illing Jr. was the notable one who went to Aston Villa. Kind of unsure of what he's going to end up being there, what his ceiling is. So who knows on that one. The more notable one, Moise Keane. Some call him Moise Jeans. We sometimes call him that.
Nobody calls him that.
Jeans,
You guys,
mate.
13 million to Fiorentina. I like this one for both teams, and I like it
I
for
love this for Juve.
Moise Keane too. He's bounced around a ton. I still think you can get something decent out of him. I don't know where you
I hope
guys
so. Just
stand on
'cause
this
he's
one.
Italian. I hope that they can get something out of him. I don't. I'm kind of done with him. This is his second stint on Juve. Both were pretty underwhelming. I'm pumped that we got 13 mil up front, and I believe there's 5 million bonuses, so it comes out to like 18 for him. I didn't think we were gonna get anywhere close to that because we're talking about a guy this past season who I think played maybe 10 games. He didn't play a lot, and I'm pretty sure he didn't score one goal. But you want to see him bounce back because he's Italian. We're struggling at the striker spot in the Italy club, so maybe if he can get maybe 10 or 12, he can get a run and push Scamacca to be better. So hopefully he could turn it around.
I think this is a great move again, like you said, for both sides. Juve needed to get him out. He was kind of stale on the roster. But for Fiorentina, I think this is another move that they've been trying to replicate over years past. You look at what they tried to do with Jovic 2 years ago. They tried to bring in Bellotti last season. I think that for a mid-table who's competing for a European Championship spot year after year, this is a great buy. Experienced, still has some juice in the legs, decently high floor. I mean, you're at least going to get 5 or 6 goals out of him. And when we spoke about this previously, I think this was a great point. Take him out of the spotlight take him off such a high pressure situation like playing for Juventus, he might shine. He might come to form, and we'll see how this works out for both sides.
Yeah, and just to wrap up Juventus here, a couple big rumors that are still swirling. Motts is really hot on this one. Hope it gets done. Coop Miners from Atalanta. Motts, what's the latest there that you've been seeing? Is that going to happen?
Yeah, so what I've seen is that Coop Miners has basically told all the other teams the only team he wants to go to is Juventus. He's basically said, "This is my one team I'm going to go to," which makes it better for Juventus when it comes to negotiating with Atalanta. But that's where there's an issue. Atalanta values him at 60 mil. Juventus want to spend around 45 to 50. Juventus can't buy him until they sell some players. Some players that are rumored to be sold are Dean Huijsen to PSG for around 30 mil, Matteo Sule to either Leicester or Roma for around 30 mil. Chiesa is rumored to go Roma and maybe Bayern, maybe Prem, 20 mil around there. So it's really gonna have to we're gonna have to sell some players before we can get to Coop Miners. But I do think that once we do sell a guy or two, we are gonna get this deal done.
Yeah, and on Coop Miners, I know you're super excited about him, and he would bring a different element to the Juve midfield, even more so than Douglas Luiz and Kefren Turam and the guys that they have. Why are they looking at him? What does he do well? What has he done well for Atalanta? And why are you so excited about him?
Yeah, I mean, he's more of an offensive midfielder, but he can still play a deep lying one as well. So that's one thing that they're looking for in all these and revamping their midfield are players that can play more than one spot. So Logan said it, Douglas Luiz can play in all three rows. Taram can play in two rows. Coop Miners can also play in all three rows. He tends to get further up the field. He got 10 goals and 10 assists as well for the last 2 seasons. So he's always in front of net. He knows how to finish. He knows how to create. And once again, like I said in the beginning, Juventus have lacked creators in the midfield, and this guy's one of the most creative midfield players in the league. He also knows the league, so it's a little different than going to buy somebody outside of the league that has to learn this league. He's been in this league for about 5-6 years now, scoring 10 goals, getting assists. So that's why they're high on him, and that's why he's been number one on Giuntoli's list.
Yeah, Coop Miners is a great one. I'm always a big fan to what you just alluded to there of buying guys that have been in the league. They've been there, done that. You don't get an effect of how are they going to be like the French league tax they call it, which I think is less applicable to Serie A. But that's a good one, and I hope they get him. It will elevate Juve and kind of bring back Juve. I think if they finalize the midfield with that one. But going on to the AC Milan lads, me and Logan, AC fans, we'll just let you guys know that in advance. We're still unbiased. Been an interesting window so far. The way things are going, I think we'll be happy at the end. Fonseca's kind of building a new squad around the guys that he likes, it seems. So far, the official business that it was done actually today, Alvaro Morata. A lot of you might have opinions about him. I think he is one of the more divisive players in the world. Motts has had to deal with him at Juventus or love him at Juventus, depending on what day it is. I really love this one. Logan, what's your opinion on this? This is kind of the swap for Giroud's out, Morata's in. Let's see what he can do.
I'm actually pretty stoked about this move. In the past, have not been super hot on Morata. He's kind of been at times a meme player per se, but I think that his latest stint at Atleti was actually of quality. And another thing that's just timely is that he typically shows out for when he plays for Spain, and I think that's a product of the fact that you surround him with quality and with players that will be a little bit more direct than him. It allows him to drop into the midfield a little bit, be a target, be a hold up player, and take a little bit of the scoring pressure off of him. That's exactly what AC set up to do going forward. And I think they showed it a lot this past season. You have Leao, who's as direct can be. Pulisic off the other side had an unbelievable season. Hopefully, he can keep up that form. And then you have Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Reinders playing in the midfield who can really get up high and complement him as a single striker. I think we really set up a nice spot for Morata to play in. Super, super high floor. I expect 10 goals out of this guy and also is great on the ball. Hold up play is phenomenal. He's not a liability out there. He's essentially what I like to think of as what Giroud was, but much higher energy, much more legs, and I think can add a little bit more on a press if Fonseca wants to implement that.
Yeah, and for me, what I like about Morata, and I think we saw it perfectly with Spain, what he's best at is elevating the people around him. People always are like, oh, he doesn't score enough goals. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do this. What he's really good at is you can just hammer a ball into him, no matter like if it's a shitty pass, if you hit it too hard, he'll just like receive it and like pull it down. What he doesn't have that Giroud did really well are those like fancy flicks off of weird passes at the very top of the box. And that's where Giroud did so much for us. And then also being like the final guy to bang in the ball. What I like about Morata especially is, like I said, he makes people better. He creates space for those inverted wingers to run in behind. And then the other thing he does well that Giroud didn't do, which is going to give us a new dimension to the team, is actually run in behind. Like he's not the fastest guy in the world, but he has pace and he's very intelligent about when he chooses to make those runs. We saw it with Spain a
High
lot.
IQ.
He got in behind at the right time, like where people were like, okay, they're not going to go long here. And he gets in behind a lot, but he doesn't always score, right? That's why he gets so many knocks. Like he gets on the ball in the right position, he doesn't bury it. I'm really excited about it. We'll see what Fonseca does, and we're going to go through some of the rumors, and it's really changing the way I expect AC to play this year. But Motts, after having to endure Morata a couple of times, I think you're less hot on him than we are, and would love to get your take.
Yeah, I had two stints of Morata, both of which I didn't love. However, for AC Milan, I do like this move because he needs, it's a different role that he's playing for Milan than he would have been for Juventus. He doesn't need to score 15, 18 goals. He needs to get you guys 10 goals, 8 assists, and the role that he's going to be playing is the role that he excels in, and you saw it with Spain. Morata had a great Euros. He allowed Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams to flourish off of him, and that's exactly like Pulisic and Leao is going to do on AC Milan. I think him dropping in the midfield and then allowing, like you guys said, the inverted wingers to go in and he can feed those balls in. I also think this is a really, really similar move to the move that you guys made when you got Giroud. When you got Giroud, people were not so high on him. He couldn't always finish as well. It's kind of similar ceiling as Morata, and then you filled him in very nicely on AC Milan, and you guys all love him, and he finished goals and created a lot of chances. So I think Morata is going to be a lot like the Giroud. However, I will just say contract length. I think you guys signed him for 4 or 5 years. He's about to be 32,
For
so
years.
he's going to be like 36 by the end of this deal, and I think he's getting like 4 mil. So it's like somewhat high for the back half of it, but for the next 2 years, I like this move.
It's fine. We'll sell him to Saudi for 50 mil in 2 years. It'll be
That's such
not
a
a
good
problem.
clean the books the way Morata does. The other guy that we're linked to is, and that, again, that's the only real official news that we've gotten so far. There's some heavy links that we think are 100% going to get done at this point. The first one being Pavlovic. He's on Salzburg, right? RB Salzburg.
Salzburg.
Yeah, so he's a left-footed center back, kind of just like a destroyer build, classic center back. Not a ton to comment there. What it will do is it'll allow Tomori to play his more natural position, right center back. We talk about right center back, left center back. You want a left foot, left center back, right foot, right center back. And it's kind of like it's a luxury to some degree. But what it ends up doing is it just creates different passing angles for your center backs, and it's a little bit easier for them to build out from the back, clear the ball, that sort of thing. So not a major development there, just a
I
solid
like him
player.
though.
Yeah,
Also, real quick shout out Serb. He's a Serb. Calcio Culture. We love our Serbians, baby. So get more Serbians on our teams.
the other guy we're linked to, another striker, aging striker. That's the AC Milan motto these days. Just sign the old strikers. Nicholas Füllkrug. I'm sure you guys have seen him in the Euros and the World Cup before that kind of broke onto the scene for Germany. He's an older guy. Another one that's just a classic number 9. That one's not 100%, but I think it would be a good fit, Logan, to kind of back up Morata when we need him. Maybe playing some random Coppa Italia games, a little bit worse team. But I mean, Füllkrug's a guy that's going to get goals. It just he's not the best, right? He's
I
good.
agree. I agree. I think he's tried and true both on an international scale, a domestic league scale, and in Champions League. Discount number 9 backup, and I think it's such a nice buy, especially bringing in Murata now, because I don't think you're losing that much quality, especially when you bring him in. Call it 65th, 70th minute. He's going to bring on a little bit higher energy when Murata gets tired. He plays a similar style, not as clean on the ball, but certainly a target guy. Will get in the box, nose for goal. Happy with that link. Hopefully we go through with it. But I would say the best link that we have right now and the one I'm most excited about is certainly Yusuf Ofana, defensive midfielder out of Monaco. We are linked potentially between 20 and 25 mil. I know Monaco is looking for 30 and rejected a bid of 30 from another team. But Fofana has come out, said that he wants to be in Milan and he wants to be at AC Milan, not Inter. He's not going to pull a Thuram, hopefully this time, and get off the plane and go to the other side of San Siro. But really love this link, love this move. I know he had been in talks with a bunch of other teams last summer, but this guy adds value to a ton of different teams across Europe, and I'm just happy that we're the ones that are top of his list. I think that he brings a whole nother dimension that we haven't had, and we didn't have last year that we had when we had Tonali. I think definitely some bite, definitely some physicality. Guys like Adley, like Reinders, not the type of guys to bring that sort of defensive mindset, and especially not Ben Acer given his stature. But Fofana is a really nice compliment to the rest of this midfield, and I'm happy to see that link.
Yeah, I'm a big Fofana guy too. What more so worries me about this one? He's a great player. He does his thing. He's a destroyer. He was the captain of Monaco. Like really good, solid player. I think what this one says more is how I expect AC to play this year, and that's what worries me more. With him coming in, I would expect Benacer to not play and them to deploy Reinders into a deeper role, which I don't love. I think we saw that in the Euros. He's less effective from a deeper role, and we always talk about having a pacer. If we start Fofana, start Reinders, start Ruben Loftus-Cheek, we kind of lose that. But what it does tell me is that we're going to be a high pressing, high energy team that's going to just kind of mash the ball down everybody's throat. So it'll be exciting, and we'll get more into that when we do our AC Milan kind of spotlight episode. But I'm happy with it. This is a high level signing. I mean, 20 to 25 million for somebody of this stature is great business. And again, we're building the squad. We're not quite at the level that Inter is, obviously, but it's slowly putting these pieces together, making things that make sense, getting different player archetypes in. The only thing I hope we end up getting a right back. I think the Emerson deal has
Need,
kind of fallen
need,
through.
need a right back. Absolutely need a right back. I cannot stress that enough. How much we need a right back. It's been millennium since we've had a good right back. Aside from the season that Kalulu played out there, I am dying to see Calabria get the boot. I don't care. He's the captain. Let him ride the pine. Let him play that Romagnoli spot when we won the Scudetto. He can sit next to Fonseca all he wants. I need somebody else out there on the pitch at the right side. Thank you.
Thanks for that rant, Lug. And on that, we're going to move on to the team that I am personally most excited about this year. Uh, you guys may be in agreement here. Antonio Conte's Napoli. Couple good signings here to start. I think we expect more. That's
Good
kind of the
business.
Conte. They usually give Conte some money, some things to work with. The rumors are Ozyman away and Cavara away. At this point, it doesn't look like Cavara is going anywhere. He should be sticking around, which is good news. Ozyman still a couple links. I'm leaning towards Ozyman staying at this point. Also,
All the suitors are drying up for Victor, so it's like, where are you gonna go? Maybe Saudi and just make a ton of money, but he's too young to go to Saudi. I don't think he wants to.
yeah, I would
But
agree with that.
Arsenal's out.
This one's
Arsenal's out on
peculiar,
them.
though. It's peculiar because I don't think we can necessarily call it the Koulibaly conundrum just yet. Because I think his talent level and his age definitely corroborate the price tag that Napoli's looking for, which I think has been around the 120 mark ever since he came down from that high last summer. I mean, he's 24, 25, 24 probably, and this guy knocks in goals. I mean, he's a pure scorer,
25.
fast, lanky, aerial threat. I think this guy can step into most any starting lineup aside from Real Madrid at this point and start.
Even
Maybe not,
then,
maybe
even
not Man
then,
City, but again, I'm not sure why the suitors have dried up, but I do think it's in his best interest to stay because I think he needs to give Conte a chance. I think that this Napoli revamp this summer is going to look really good on the pitch. And even though Conte typically gets a big budget, hasn't shown it yet. He hasn't shown it yet with the deals that they've done. Spinazzola on a free. Love Spinazzola on a free. Cannot stress that enough. Great bit of business. You look at Rafa Marin from Real coming in 12 million, a little bit of bolstering at the center back position, and then obviously, Vos, what do you think of the one spurt of spending that they've done in Buongiorno?
35 mil Bongiorno is phenomenal business. We
Agreed.
all thought Bongiorno probably should have been playing in the Euros by the end of it when Calafiori is suspended. This guy just had an insane season at Torino. Was one of the best center backs in the world. Not in Serie A. Like full stop. Was one of the best center backs in the world last year. They lost their two starting center backs a year ago. That was a big hole in the lineup in Kim and Jay. That was just a massive loss for them, and they haven't been able to replace him. But bringing in a dominant center back is always a great way to start your Mercato, right? And Conte is going to do his thing with this team. They're just going to build from here. I would expect them to bring in a couple more players. We don't have a ton of links right now, but this is a great start for them.
Yeah, I think
Surely.
if you're Osimhen, you have to want to maybe stay because look what Conte did with Lukaku 2 3 years ago. He had like what 30 goals. But I get why he was De Laurentiis promised that he could leave this summer, so that's why I do think he will leave if they get an offer for him. But I don't think Cavada leaves at all because De Laurentiis, their owners came out multiple times. It was like Cavada's going nowhere. Also, in the contract with Conte, he negotiated that he has final say on who does leave. And Conte said, like, I understand that before I was here, Osimhen and the club had an agreement to leave, so I will allow him to leave. But Cavada's going nowhere. However, Cavada's unhappy there because he's only getting paid like $1 million, and this guy just won the MVP of the league 2 years ago. So it's like, hey, De Laurentiis, why don't you just pay him the money that he deserves? And that's why he's upset. But I mean, Napoli still they have only one competition. You give Conte one competition. You give him 100 mil if they sell Victor. He's going to revamp the team, and they're gonna be a threat for sure this year. Napoli.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that actually helped Napoli in the whole Osimhen situation is how bad Napoli was last year. I think people are a little bit hesitant now to just drop the bag on Osimhen. Not that he's like any worse; like they were just terrible. But that has, I think, kind of worked in their favor.
Surely.
But on to another club. I love this club. I'm an AC Milan fan, but I just love everything about Roma. Not a ton of news here though. I think this is a big window for Roma, and I don't love what's going on there. They're kind of at a crux where they can move on and become one of the like a factor in Europe, and it doesn't seem like that's where they're going for me. So far
No,
they got
Roma's not so far has not done enough business, nor have shown any links to good enough business to be a contender to be top five. Well, top five now, with the extra UCL spot, but a little concerning to see the lack of activity out of the capital.
They just don't have the money to have the links is what it is because they want Chiesa. Chiesa's not too like he's not too keen on moving there because he knows like this it's a competitive league. Roma might not guarantee to be Champions League every year, and he wants to play in the Champions League year in and year out after missing this one with Juventus last season. So there's no guarantee that Roma finish four every single season. So he's hesitant to go there. They're linked with Sule. They can't pay the fee of Sule, the 30 mil. I think that'd be a good buy by them, but they don't have the money to buy the players like that they want. So they have to get creative with it.
Yeah, and on top of that, two of their players that are linked away are Tammy, which would be a disaster for them, and Lukaku,
I don't
right?
know. I mean, listen, I don't know. Lukaku was on loan, so he's
Oh yeah,
gone.
you're right. You're right.
But
You're right.
Tammy, I don't think losing Tammy is the worst thing in the world because he was injured all of last year and they replaced him just fine with Lukaku. Obviously, Lukaku is gone, so they'll need to find another striker if Tammy goes. But I think I don't. They've missed. Tammy's been injured a lot in his stint in Roma, so they haven't really. I don't think it would be that big of a hole if he leaves.
I don't love that take, Mats, but we'll see. I think this is a big season to see how much of a factor Tammy is for Roma. But again, need a lot more business out of them. But what I will say is there's a bit of business coming on from the other side of the capital in Lazio. A little Nuno Tavares action, a little leaving Immobile out, and we got a little link to a very controversial player, but I do think he's got some talent. Mason Greenwood to Lazio is in the works. What do you guys think?
On Immobile, let's not be too harsh on him here. Immobile has been a dominant Serie A striker for a really long time, and a loyal soldier for Lazio. He has been just like a one man wrecking machine for them, and they've had a lot of ups and downs with him. They've had a lot of different managers, they've had a lot of different players, a lot of different systems of playing, and he has been a constant for them that has propelled them to top half of the table consistently. It can't be understated how big of a loss this is for them. And I don't know where they're going to replace those goals, even if they get Mason Greenwood, which I still think is very difficult to get done at this point with all the allegations against him. Whether or not those things are true is one thing, but he's had opportunities to go elsewhere and everybody said no to a large degree. So being the team that pulls the trigger and says we're going to take him isn't a great look at this point. Is the way I would describe it, and I would be surprised if this deal got done.
I don't think that deal's getting done. Juventus were interested in Mason Greenwood, and Man U are asking like 50 mil for him. Lazio they're not paying that, and I don't think they have that. But on your point, Vos, about Immobile, we have to give this man his flowers. He had a fantastic career, probably maybe Lazio's best player ever, definitely their best striker ever. He was constantly in leading in the competition to lead the league in goals. He definitely saw his age in this last year, but did right by Lazio, stayed with them. It was the right time to move on. Great career, this guy. You wish he could have done a little bit more for the national team. He tended to struggle for us on the national stage, but still a great career, great goal scorer. Kind of sad to see him go, but great career.
Fair, fair.
And moving on
Another
to our boys in Bergamo, Atalanta. This is actually one of the transfers that I am most excited about is Zaniolo to Atalanta because I have undying faith that Gasparini is going to turn him into an amazing player. I just know what's going to happen. And next thing you know, here in 2 years, we're going to be here. He's going to be on the World Cup team. He's going to be balling out. He's going to be like Atalanta's talisman. He's going to be linked elsewhere. Like, this is what Gasparini does. He takes a player that has had a career like Zaniolo and just turns him into a machine. It's going to happen.
Agreed. I mean, he's done it multiple
Doesn't
times, and
happen.
especially last season. Quick spotlight to another deal that just got done. CDK, Charles de Catalare, loan official now to buy from AC Milan. We gave up on that project. Gasparini did not give up on that man. Had a wonderful season, double-digit goal scorer. You look at Scamacca coming back from West Ham to Atalanta last season, was back to form from when he was on SAS. You look at players like Scalvini. Not his career had never had a bad start, but Scout, a great player under Gasparini. Hurt now. We'll see how he comes back. Lookman, a wonderful player under Gasparini. You look at Baca a couple years back. You
Scamacca,
look
like the
at
list
Zapata,
endless. Yeah.
Zapata.
the list goes on and on and on. So I agree, Bose, that this is a great move for Zaniolo. He's had some tough stops, obviously 2 ACL tears at Roma, a little weird stop in Turkey, and then a subpar season for Aston Villa. This is going to be a critical one for him, and hopefully he takes advantage.
If he doesn't take advantage of this one, I think you got to close the book on Zaniolo
He's to
because
Saudi.
like you guys said, Gasparini has done it for a ton of players. So if he doesn't do it here, like R.I.P. Zaniolo
No,
to
if he
me.
doesn't get it here, he's literally going to get shipped off to Saudi, 1,000%. And just last thing on Atalanta before we wrap up, Ben Godfrey, center back from Everton, now on Atalanta. I really like this one. This is another one that I think Gasparini is going to do a lot with. Ben Godfrey, not technically amazing, but just a really athletic center back. He can play outside back in a pinch, I think. But I think just Gasparini and the way they play, they're going to get the most out of him. Just kind of athletic defending style. So I'm excited about this one. I don't know if he's going to start, but he should get some burn, and it'll be a good one to watch.
And there's been a series of great English center backs to Serie A. You look at Chris Smalling, you look at Fikayo Tomori, Ben Godfrey, next in line. Another move though at center back, Prem to Serie A, maybe one of the best of the window. Rafa Varane to Como, the newcomers to Serie A. Co-owner Czech Fabregas was like, "I'm getting my guy. I love Varane. Get him in here." A great bit of business, trying to replicate what happened a couple years back with Umtiti, a little bit of a revival there. So happy to see a nice big name coming into a new team.
Awesome,
And then
Logs.
other than that, I guess we just have to pay our respects to some of the players that might be leaving the Serie A. One definitely confirmed that's leaving. Xerxes maybe could be a regret by Milan not pulling trigger and spending the agent's fee. I think it was like 10 million, but he is now on Manchester United. That deal is confirmed, done deal. I think the contract was five years. And then my boy Riccardo Calafiori, heavily linked with Arsenal. They're trying to wager with Bologna right now, get that 50 mil price tag down a little bit. Bologna staying firm because They have a 50% sell-on clause to Basel, so they only get half of the transfer fee. So they're sticking pretty firm at 50, but it's looking like he's priced out by Juventus, or Bologna priced out Juventus with that 50 mil tag. So it's looking like going to Arsenal. Those two were very good players this season under Thiago Motta, and will be missed if they do end up leaving the league.
Yeah, on Xerxes, Joshua Xerxes to Manchester United, I disdain.
R.I.P.
This is
R.I.P.
this is literally one of those moves that could ruin your career. He already almost did that with how things worked out at Bayern, and he's just doing it again. And he didn't fail at Bayern, but Bayern is such a better club at developing you and giving you opportunities than Manchester United is. I can easily see this being Memphis Depay situation like 2.0. Go to Man U. It's not working out. Everybody gets on him, and then he's done. In a year, he ends up, I don't know, some random club somewhere, probably Saudi.
Well, he's young, so I would say he's still young. So he could be a flop and then still maybe move somewhere a little bit cheaper to kind of rejuvenate him. To the Bayern part, I'll say he was even younger at Bayern. It's tough to break in unless you are Musiala at that age. I think he was like 19 or 20 in Bayern. It's tough to break
Yeah,
in
but
unless you're one of the
even
top in
then,
the
like
world.
when you look at what Manchester United have done, you look at guys like
I agree.
Anthony
They're
Martial,
career killers.
Donny Van de Beek, like
Manchester United,
young guys that
career
they could move on from,
Casemiro.
but they won't move on from them because they've invested the money in them and they refuse to take that loss. So that's it on Xerxes. On Calafiori, Lokes, how do you feel about him to Arsenal, which is probably going to happen? And just in general, Calafiori for Italian soccer is massive. And I think if he does go to Arsenal, it's another thing like, oh, maybe people should start watching Serie A. Like this guy just came out of there.
I think having Italian players outside of Serie A, as much as I love keeping people home, I think it's great for the brand. I think that this is a great fit for Arsenal. He's not exactly an outside back, but he certainly can play there, and I don't think he displaces Gabriel or Saliba off the bat. He's literally just a way better version of Jacob Kiewar, who Arsenal also bought from Serie A, came out of Spezia. I believe that was a $25 million price tag, was also linked to AC. Kiewar might be coming back to Serie A because of this, but I think that it's a great buy by Arsenal. Way to jump in there, way to take advantage. I think that Calafiori will thrive in the Prem. He's aggressive, he's young, he's smart. He's a little over aggressive, but I think he can do that in a Arteta side that he's got the backup from Gabriel and from Saliba. So very excited to see what happens. Very excited to see an Italian in the Prem, and we'll go from there.
I'll be upset if Arsenal buy him and play him at left back. He
Oh,
was on
that's
Roma for
100%
like
that's
3
what's gonna happen.
seasons. That's just not smart. He was played there for Roma for 3 years and was not good. Thiago bought him, moved him to center back, and now he's good. It's like Calafiori to Arsenal under Arteta will get better. It's good for Calafiori. I don't want to see him play left back. I want him to see him playing center back.
Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. You took the words out of my mouth, Lugs. I don't know how you do it. But with that, Paisan Army, thanks for joining us in our first episode here. In the lead up to the Serie A beginning of the season, we're going to give you some previews of each team. We're just going to give an episode for each like the major teams to kind of give you what their outlook for the season is going to be, what we expect from them, how we expect them to play. And then we're going to finish that off with our predictions for what the table is going to look like. We're going to go every spot in the table. We'll see how it goes. But with that, thank you all for joining us. Logs, Motts, thanks again. Do you guys want to take us out here for our outro?
Paisan Army, like, follow, subscribe, get involved on all socials at Calcio Culture FC, and listen to us again on all of your favorite streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music. Motts, take us away.
Paisan Army, don't be a gagoots. Forza Calcio Culture.